My name is Malachi Hopkins, and I think I'm a really outgoing, hardworking, and passionate person. I believe three things that everyone in the world has in common, and this can kind of go back to like my religious faith. We all have a heart. I don't believe there's one bad person out there. We're all sinners. We're no different than each other. We all have a heart. At the end of the day, something means something to us. And that really is a big thing because no matter how bad you can look at someone or think they make mistakes, they're human just like us. So we all have a heart is one big thing. Second, it kind of goes back to the hard thing. We all have flesh, We're no different than each other. We all have a nose. We all have eyes. We shouldn't judge each other. And then I think for the third thing is we've all been through something. Everyone has a story. It can be different from someone else's, but at the end of the day, everyone takes what they've gone through differently. Even if it's like someone's cat dies, could affect someone just the same as someone's mom dies, or just someone having a bad day at school could be the same as someone's cat dying. And it's just how you interpret pain, and we all do it differently. And it's just, if we all have a story, I think we all need to respect each other more and know that we all have been through something and that we're all human. I used to be a football player. I played in the collegiate level at Coffeyville Community College. And then unfortunately, due to a neck injury, I couldn't play anymore. So I was just trying to go to school, and then I was dealing with some other medical issues that an MRI from my neck injury led to finding a nodule in my thyroid, which later on became thyroid cancer. So I had to focus on that, and I got 2 surgeries within the same year. So dealing with that kind of made me truly come out as who I am, and as me just wanting to be a helper and make an impact in the community. Luckily, and I think this is all by God's grace, they found it when it was really small. And I remember going into the ears, nose, and throat specialist. I was really emotional because I was getting told I had cancer, and it was a lot to take in. They said it was really small. They caught it, and he gave me 2 options. He said, we can take out half your thyroid and just hope there's not a chance of it spreading. And he said, or we can take out your full one, but then you'll be discharged over the night. So I'd have to stay the night, and then at least having a small part of your thyroid is better than none, having an organ. And he basically let me know that I wouldn't have to take a pill for the rest of my life if I got half of it out. But unfortunately, my TSH level, after they took out half of it, wasn't up to date. So I still do have to take a pill every single day. But I do feel way healthier, and I still have a lot of energy. But right now I have half a thyroid. I'm just praying that it doesn't come back, But right now I'm pretty healthy, I think. A little of my background, I'm originally from Lincoln. I've always lived here. I grew up with a single mom, so my mom had 3 kids at the age of 21, how old I am right now. So, and I'm also the only boy. I have 3 sisters. So, I grew up majority single mom. My aunt used to take care of us a lot because my mom was always working and stuff. But, my mom always made sure we had everything we needed, working super hard, and that's where I think I get a lot of things from that I'm always motivated from. I wouldn't say I was a bad kid, but just had super bad ADHD, always just roaming around, just being a kid. I definitely started finding myself after middle school. That's when I first started playing football. I didn't get to start playing tackle football until I was in 6th grade, because sports are really expensive, and and a single mom doing that was hard. And then luckily, she met my sister's dad, who was a huge part of my life and helped out with that. So that's when I first started playing football. And then after I was done with Pound Middle School, I went to Lincoln High School. That's the most diverse high school in Nebraska, also the oldest high school in Nebraska. And that's where I finally was just around a whole bunch of diversity, got to experience a lot of different options. I still didn't develop, but I got to see a lot of things, and I got to think a lot. And now I feel as just, being 3 years into college, I've really found myself from going through the trials and tribulations I've been through. And now I think I have a pretty good idea on what I want to do and what I don't want to be. I think a lot of people have had a good influence on me in my life. One of them is definitely my old teammate mentor. So he's now the CEO of Teammates. His name is Des Moines Adams. So I met him in 6th grade when I was at Pound Middle School, and my mom wanted me to get like a mentor, just to keep me on track. She always cared a lot about me. And I wasn't super astonished with it. I was like, why do I need to do this, And I just remember him walking in, and he was a super strong guy and looked, really big and looked pretty cool. And I remember the first thing, like our first conversation, I remember he told me, we were just getting to know each other, and he told me he played in the NFL. And as a sixth grader who, started playing football for the first time, that was like music to my ears. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, no way I'm talking to an NFL player. Then we fast forward to high school. We've still been in teammates connection. He actually helped me get one of my offers for football. He's always been there for me. He showed me there's life outside of sports. He always let me know if there's anything I need, he'll be there. He helped me make sure, because he kind of did all the roles I wanted to do. He wasn't a football player anymore. He provided for his family very well. He's a motivational speaker. He went to UNL and graduated from there. He was a lifter. He helped me with lifting. He gave me like a workout program and stuff like that. And honestly, it made a huge impact in my life for seeing a role model kind of being what I wanted to be. So that was definitely a huge impact on my life. My mom always provided everything I need. I think it impacted me, just letting me know not to give up, and it's kind of like, I really appreciate her for that, because I look back at it now, and I might not have agreed with a lot of the ways back then, but I look back at it now, how I'm her age when she had 3 kids, I wouldn't have known what to do. And the fact that she was still able to provide as much as she could for us and make sure I didn't ever go without, it's kind of like a motivation, it's like a humbling experience, because now that I feel like I'm in a better position when I have kids, I'm gonna make sure that they get everything they need and more, because I know if my mom could have, she would have. So I do have a nonprofit. It's called Everybody Gets a Chance, or EGC. We do sports performance training for underprivileged kids. Now we're focusing more on youth development, so basically being a mentor for these young athletes and basically using the athletic training as an outlet to become a real adult. And I started this nonprofit, basically, I came to the conclusion that I want to be a helper. And I decided that I want to be able to share that with other kids that have been in situations like me and just are kind of lost and need that discipline. And I believe I learned a lot of discipline from athletics. And a lot of kids don't have that accessibility to training, especially on the cost or just their parents needing the time. There's a lot that comes with it. I remember when I was talking to my mom and her friend, and they were giving me basically ideas of what I could do, because, they were being really helpful, and I was just kind of lost. I was like, what am I gonna do now, And they're like, maybe you could train some kids, do a couple speed and agility sessions like 2 days a week, and charge the kids $20. I'm like, like that could actually be really nice. And then I was like, what if I did like a nonprofit for kids that didn't have the opportunity for it, and I didn't charge them? Because my mom grew up in a nonprofit too, and she worked for the nonprofit City Impact. They were a huge help for me also, and showed me a lot of different things. It's a Christian nonprofit. And I was kind of motivated by that. I was like, well, what if I did something like that, but I was training kids? So that was always in the back of my mind. And one of the guys who was working at City Impact at the time, Dustin Altman, I set up a meeting with him, and I was like, hey man, I have this idea, and I think it could be really good. Like, could you help me? And we talked, we chatted, and I gave him my idea. Like, this is what I want to do. I think it could be really big. Like, you're in a good position in a nonprofit. Is there any way you could help me? And, I was still in like a bad spot a little bit, so it was hard for him to reach out to me. And I was just like, yeah, it'd be nice. And I just never really followed through with it. But I had the idea, and I was talking to a lot of people about it. Like, this would be amazing, One day I was walking into TJ Maxx, and he drove by. He was like, hey, Malachi. And I looked over, and it was him. And he was like, hey, are you still interested in starting a nonprofit? And I'm like, yeah. And what was kind of crazy is I was talking to my friend when we were walking into the Max, just kind of felt down a little bit. I was like, dude, I just don't know what I want to do, man. I feel like I'm letting everyone down. I'm not doing anything. And I feel like that was God calling him over. And I was like, man, no way. I seen him after, not really getting back to him. So I said, yes, 100% I'd be down. Like, let's actually do this. And we started meeting, and that was about October of 2022. And we started meeting. He did different meetings. He even grabbed other people that were involved in nonprofits. He grabbed other people from City Impact. We met like once a week, and he put everything on paper for me. He asked me questions on what I wanted it to look like and many other things. We put it on paper. We got a logic model. We had it structured. We had our mission statement and all of that. We got a good traction. I still remember it was on December 12th. We made our first post. And what's crazy, that later week, Dustin got me into a gym, Red Zone Fitness, which Jeremy Miller, he's the owner of that, and he's a huge help to me also. He let me train the kids that first week, get footage and everything. So my first week of Instagram on our business page, we had 2 employees hired, we had our mission statement out there, and we had literally hands-on videos training kids, giving our mission what they're doing. So we moved pretty quick. We had a good roll going. And I was like, okay, but how do we get established? Like, how can we really take this to the next level? Well, yeah, we have a good idea, but we don't have our own program. We don't have a board team. We don't have any of this. So I said, Seth, what do we do? He goes, I mean, dude, I'd actually be really down to help you if you're interested in like making it that big. And I was like, yes. Basically told me to establish a nonprofit. He recommended it like a lawyer. He said, you know, to get your 501c, to get your articles of incorporation, like you could use help from a lawyer. I'm like, man, like, you know, we don't have money for that. Like, how are we gonna do that? He said, well, we can try to do our best, and we just keep trying to submit it. He said, you're gonna need a board team, you're gonna need your morals, you're gonna need what kind of corporation you're gonna be, and I'm like, I don't know any of that. And I remember about a couple of weeks later, we all met, and we searched up how to do the articles of incorporation. We had a demo to look at. We were searching up the best way we can do, and we had that printed off that day. And I'm like, all right, sweet. Then I had to drive around and go get all their signatures because you have to sign it off before you take it to the Secretary of Business. So I took it to the Secretary of Business that next day. I was waiting, I was a little nervous, and I was like, okay. She goes, okay, you messed this up. And I'm like, oh man. And it was just that the registered agent. And I was like, okay, she let me write it down on the paper though. So I wrote down that I was a registered agent, and she said, this all looks good. We got it all right. So she was like, do you want the formal copy of it? It's like where they put the Nebraska State Secretary of State on there for the business on there. And I was like, yeah, we could do that. And she handed me back the paper with your articles of incorporation have been filed as a nonprofit here in Nebraska, and Everybody Gets a Chance was now a nonprofit in Lincoln, Nebraska. I want to tell you a little about my faith. So like I said, I've always been like kind of raised in a Christian nonprofit, you know, so I've always learned about the Lord and learned about Jesus. And I always believed in Jesus. I would never say I didn't. But there's a difference between believing in Jesus and knowing Jesus and having a relationship with Jesus. And I've learned that from going through these trials and tribulations. So my faith right now is a lot to me, and it's what I've been working on the most to me. And I don't want to mistake coincidences for God. And God does everything for a reason. His timing is never off. So I'm a firm believer in that everything happens for a reason because God made that happen. So when God put Dustin in my life, in that exact same moment, he knew he wanted me to start this nonprofit. And I think my calling from God doesn't have to be necessarily to spread the gospel directly, but to affect these kids in a different way and moving them in a way that a lot of kids don't have that opportunity to. And just being there for someone a lot and just showing them how Jesus affected me can definitely be a resemblance on them or one to learn. So I think there's many ways that people can get involved with my nonprofit EGC, but I think there's a main three, and I think the number one is obviously finances. You know, it could be anything you put out there. You know, we're not asking for a huge number, we're not asking for a small number. Just any finances that you can help, that would definitely be a huge help to our nonprofit, just to fund these kids at like their training, get them some clothes, and we're also looking forward to do like little scholarships for kids. We're looking at doing a sort of like young scholarship for kids who their parents necessarily can't afford organized sports, which I've been in that situation before. So we're basically just looking for funding to help these kids because at the end of the day, some of it comes down to funding, and funding builds structure, especially for these young kids, which affects them physically and mentally. The next thing I would definitely say is volunteering your time, basically your time. If it's helping us out at events, you know, helping us find trainers or just being there for the kids, also let them know you care, the more the better. And I'm a firm believer in that. And then lastly, we get that not everyone has the necessary finances or time to get involved with EGC, but even if it's just a word of mouth, just making connections. Maybe you know someone who has a gym that would love to donate us the gym space, or you know, maybe a clothing company that they're friends with that they can help donate shirts for the kids, and just anything, just spreading the word, you know, sharing our love, because what we do is sharing love. And that's kind of what my faith in God talks about. Jesus shares love, and that's what I want to do. Sharing love for these kids and making them the best adults they can be.